coalition of, so you're saying NATO would give you a legal basis? And
this is Jeff Sessions.
Coalition of
this
nations
is the guy who's been advising Donald Trump.
Provide a legal basis?
He can't believe what he's hearing.
If we were able to put together a coalition and were able to move together, then obviously we would seek whatever legal basis we would need in order to make that justified. I mean, you know, we can't just pull them all together in a combat operation.
See, he needs the support of NATO and the UN to go to war, not Congress.
Well, who are you asking for the legal basis from?
If it's obviously, if the UN passed a security resolution as it did in Libya, we would do that.
And they just keep going back and forth. And finally, Senator Sessions says, I can't believe what I'm hearing. You're a congressman. All right, welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight on this Friday, June 17th, 2016. I want to finish that clip that we were playing in the last segment of Senator Sessions and Leon Panetta talking about what is the basis for war anymore. Do you have a constitution? Well, according to Leon Panetta, no. And Senator Sessions cannot believe his ears. I mean, even with all the years that he's spent in Washington, he can't believe it. And I want to play that because this is a guy, Leon Panetta, who is out there saying, well, you know, Donald Trump is going to trigger Muslims. He is recruiting people for ISIS because he's saying we're going to vet people coming into the country. And at the same time, these same people are saying, we got to have more background checks. We got to have more watch lists for people, for Americans, not for the people coming from the countries that we are currently bombing. No, the bombs and the assassinations and the wars that we've started in their countries, that doesn't trigger them at all. No, what triggers them is saying, we're going to investigate your background before you come in or you're not going to come in. That triggers them. That triggers them. We should be aware of that. We should be scared of them doing that. It's Donald Trump's fault, okay? Before we get back to that clip, I just want to let you know we've got a couple of specials. We've got the Alexa Pure Water Filter special, which is still going on. It's going to be for a limited time only. So look at that now while it's available at InfoWarsStore.com. 20% off all the Alexa Pure water filters. That's from everything from the super high-quality gravity-fed Alexa Pure Pro water filtration system all the way down to the smaller shower filters. All of these items are 20% off. Now is the time to stock up. Get the lowest prices. The Alexa Pure filtration system removes up to 99.9999% of bacteria, disinfectants, volatile organic contaminants, and hormones. So whether you're on a well or whether you are on a city water supply, this is an excellent filter to have. And again, 20% off everything from the biggest systems down to the shower filters that will filter out the chlorine that's coming through your urban water supply. Going back to this clip, I want to go back and play a little bit of this. Maybe you want to back this up a little bit. This is a back and forth. You've got Senator Sessions asking, now this guy, Leon Panetta, he has been a congressman. Then he became Secretary of Defense. Then he became CIA director. I think that was the order. I think that's the last thing he did was CIA director. Under Obama from 2009 to 2011, says the article on InfoWars. But this was when he was Secretary of Defense. And we had Senator Sessions saying to him, under what conditions would you go to war? And he starts talking about how they're going to get approval, try to get a coalition together at the UN or with NATO or whatever. And he goes, yeah, but who are you going to ask permission? He's kind of leading him along. And let's go back to that clip.
Asking for the legal basis from?
If it's obviously, if the UN passed a security resolution as it did in Libya, we would do that. If NATO came together as we did in Bosnia, we would rely on that. So, you know, we have options here if we want to build the kind of international approach to dealing with the situation.
Well, I'm for all for having an international support, but I'm really baffled.
That's all really nice, but
that somehow an international assembly provides a legal basis for the United States military to be deployed in combat. I don't believe it's close to being correct. They provide no legal authority. The only legal authority that's required to deploy the United States military is the Congress and the President and the law and the Constitution.
Jeff Sessions for vice president. This guy believes the Constitution. He's absolutely incredulous with Leon Panetta at one point. We let this go on. He goes, I can't believe what I'm hearing, because they go back and forth. And Leon Panetta, after he lectures him on the Constitution, Leon Panetta says, yeah, we would let the Congress know, but we're not going to go to them for authority. We will go to a foreign body for authority, or we'll make the determination on our own. But we're not going to go to Congress for a declaration of war. Not going to do that. And Senator Sessions says, I can't believe this. You were a congressman. You know what the Constitution says. You swore an oath to the Constitution. Senator Sessions takes this very seriously. He takes his oath of office seriously. He takes the oath to the Constitution seriously. This is the only, that Senator Sessions, who challenged this practice that has been a bipartisan practice of we'll do whatever we want anywhere in the world. We'll go to war with anybody. We won't ask the representatives of the American people, according to the Constitution, to get a declaration of war. He takes it seriously, and he was the only person, when they finally made these private trade treaties, the Trans-Pacific, Transatlantic treaties, when they finally made them available to our elected representatives, Senator Sessions was the only one who went down and read them. And he was amazed. He was just as appalled as he was with this clip where you saw him going back and forth with this globalist shill, Leon Panetta, CIA director, Secretary of Defense. And he said he put together a presentation for his fellow senators and said, look at what we're about to pass. Look at this thing that we're throwing away the procedure to ratify a treaty. The procedure to ratify a treaty is 2/3 of the Senate. We're saying we're not going to do that. We're going to have a trade promotion authority that we're going to do. It's just a simple majority because they didn't have a 2/3 majority of the Senate to support this. So I said, well, okay, we don't have the vote, so let's just invent some new process that doesn't have anything to do with the Constitution. We'll call it the TPA, and we'll say senators can't have a filibuster. Senators and the House can't offer any amendments to it. Yeah, we'll let the House vote on it too, but it'll just be a simple majority. Nobody can offer any amendments. Nobody can have any filibusters. And they're going to have to vote on it with just 20 hours of talking about it. And you're not going to be able to block it from coming up to a vote in either the House or the Senate. So they just greased this whole thing through. And he said, look, understand, there's a lot of problems with this. He laid out the problems, and he said the biggest problem is once you pass this agreement, it becomes a living document. You have no control over what happens to the trade in your country anymore after that. They're going to have this international commission that will sit there and make determinations as to which industries and which countries will be rewarded, which industries and which countries will be punished. This will be made in determination by unelected people at an international council. That's what Senator Sessions was telling him. Senator Sessions has been telling this to Donald Trump since last August. He started educating him about the TPP. And now his former chief of staff is now the foreign policy chief of staff for Donald Trump. I hope that Donald Trump picks somebody that is a principled, constitutional, conservative like Senator Jeff Sessions. Let's hope that that happens. Now, what is really happening with this? I mean, is it really Donald Trump's fault that ISIS is getting upset? Or is our president really giving them the weapons? Of course, our president's giving them the weapons. As I pointed out, we've documented this many times, but let's just step back for a moment and let's look at the history of what's happened in Afghanistan and Iraq with those wars. The Free Thought Project says, in spite of trillions wasted, thousands dead, there are now more Taliban in Afghanistan than there were before 2001. More than 2,300 of our troops are dead. Tens of thousands more mangled and traumatized. More than 11,000 innocent women and children turned into casualties. Tens of thousands of other lives ruined, permanently ended. And there's nothing to show for it. There are more Taliban controlling the region now than before Bush's assault on the country 15 years ago. Aside from the countless ruined lives, the cost of the war has reached astronomical cash proportions. Mountains of debt for us, for our children, for our great-grandchildren. The Congressional Research Service has pointed out that the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq have cost U.S. taxpayers $1.6 trillion. What other things could we have bought with that other than massive death? However, according to the report from Time magazine last year, that number is a gross underestimate. They say a truer measure of the war's total cost would be between $4 and $5 trillion, because what they do is they factor in things like long-term medical care and disability compensation for service members, veterans, their families, military replenishment, social and economic costs. Oh, see, that military replenishment, that's when the military industrial complex gets to sell more bombs to us after we've used those bombs. See, that's replenishment. That's why they make so much money out of these wars. They say occupying a foreign country creates enemies. You think? Yeah. That's what creates enemies. It isn't by saying we're going to restrict immigration from a country, and all of a sudden they're going to attack us for that. No, they attack us because we are killing them. And it's not having any results. Nation building is a failed strategy from the beginning. We can't force democracy and self-government on people that don't want it, don't understand it. They have a system closely tied to their religion of totalitarianism. It's called Sharia law. Look at it. And what they point out here, this is a great headline, they were planting a garden in which 1 million bin Ladens would later bloom. Think about that. Our policy throughout the Middle East has been planting a garden where 1 million bin Ladens would later bloom. Bin Laden being the establishment metaphor, meme for terrorism, okay? But it's real. There is real terrorism. And not only did they create the garden to let terrorism bloom, but they are now importing the fruits of that war into our country. That anger, that frustration, that hatred. And it will only build and get worse with the second generation. That is what we're seeing everywhere. We saw that in France. We saw that with the shooting in Orlando. It is the second generation that is always worse. It's the second generation that doesn't even understand what they escaped from, is looking for an identity, is angry at America because they've been propagandized by the American educational system that is teaching everyone to hate the principles of America, to hate the people who founded this country, to hate people based on their race, hate white people, hate males, hate all of this. Find your identity in wherever it was that your parents came from and attack the roots of America. That's what our foreign policy is about. That's what our immigration policy is about. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. In the next segment, we're going to have Rob Dew and Leanne McAdoo join me. We're going to be talking about the watch list and other issues about gun control. I guess we'll have the team of Dew and McAdoo coming in here. So let me start this off by catching you up on current events. We had yesterday the end of a filibuster by Democrats to try to bring to the table legislation that would tie these secret watch lists to gun control. It would be basically a no-buy list for people who were put on this watch list. Now, is this going to pass? Well, NPR says they think that it's unlikely. They're going to vote on 4 gun control measures Monday evening. NPR doesn't think any of those are going to go through. We got an article from Kurt Nimmo at Infowars.com. Passage of Democrat gun bill violating our due process is unlikely in the Senate. He says it's uncertain if Feinstein's bill and competing legislation sponsored by Senator John Cornyn of Texas will receive the 60 votes required unless a deal is reached. Feinstein's legislation would permit the federal government to deny individuals on a secret terrorist watch list the right to exercise the Second Amendment if authorities decide there's a reasonable belief that the weapon could be used in connection with terrorism. Cornyn said negotiations in the Senate failed because Feinstein thought due process of law and the Constitution were not necessary. So Cornyn's version of legislation would keep constitutional protections in place. It would allow the government to put a gun purchase on hold for 72 hours. Prosecutors would then be able to convince a judge that there was probable cause in order to permanently block a sale. See, what's happening with this is there's a lot of pressure. We got people like Piers Morgan coming after Donald Trump and doing an editorial immediately after the shooting saying, come on, Donald, come on, NRA, it's time you guys gave up some of your freedoms. We have to do something about this shooting. And they're listening. The NRA and Donald Trump have tweeted out that they're going to talk about doing something in the interest of national security about this terrorist watch list. And that should concern us all. Because what we're seeing now is a movement by both the left and the right to enact new gun control laws. This effort that we have here by John Cornyn with all of the bluster about how we're going to have due process and everything, process is a bunch of nonsense. Because quite frankly, if somebody is on on a terror watch list, we should be asking what that is. I want to go back to an article here that goes back to December of this last December 2015. The LA Times